Welcome to Daily Tanya. Today is Tuesday, the 7th day of Menachem Av. Let's begin with tzedakah. Tzedakah, shemekareves esageula. And indeed, today the lesson is about tzedakah. Today we begin letter 3 of the Igeret HaKodesh, the collection, the fourth part of the Tanya, which is a collection of essays and letters from the Alter Rebbe, and there are many of them are on the topic of tzedakah. And those are basically letters that the Alter Rebbe wrote to his followers, encouraging them to give tzedakah, charity. Special cause that he collected for was the people, the Hasidim, that moved to Israel back in those days in the 1800s. And the Alter Rebbe was supporting them, collecting from the people, the Hasidim who didn't have much on their own. Back then in Europe, in Eastern Europe, they were pretty poor, but yet the Alter Rebbe encouraged them to give tzedakah and to give more than what they can, in order to support those in the Holy Land that had literally nothing. And so he would send shluchim, would send messengers to go to the communities, and he would give them the letter, basically a fundraising letter. But the Alter Rebbe's fundraising letter is a little different than your average fundraising letter. You can write, okay, there are people who are suffering, people who are in need, please help. You're going to be rewarded, this and that. The Alter Rebbe goes much deeper. In these letters, the Alter Rebbe goes into the very essence, the deeper meaning of what tzedakah, what it accomplishes, the effect of tzedakah in the spiritual worlds. And indeed, that's what the Alter Rebbe says in this letter. He explains the verse that it says that Hashem, God, were righteousness, or which is also translated as tzedakah, like a armor, like a coat of armor, a coat of mail, it's called, and a helmet of salvation on his head. We're going to see it inside, and then we'll explain. So the Alter Rebbe quotes the verse from Yeshaya. It says, "Vayilbash tzedakah kashiryoin v'choiva Yeshua beroshei." And he garbed himself with tzedakah, as with a coat of mail, and a helmet of salvation upon his head. So it talks about Hashem doing it, but everything what a God does comes as a result from our actions. So our action of tzedakah, in turn, makes Hashem wear this coat, so to speak. And what the Alter Rebbe is going to explain now, what is the comparison? Why do we compare tzedakah like a shiryain, like a coat of armor, a coat of mail? And later on, he's going to explain the second half, or what does it mean? What is the comparison of a helmet of salvation? So the question is actually asked in the Talmud. And the Talmud says as follows: what is the connection between tzedakah, charity, and a coat of mail, a coat of armor? V'dor Rabbeinu, dor Razal, ma shiryan zeh, kol klipa uklipa mitztarefes l'shiryan gadol, af tzedakah, kol pruta upruta mitztarefes l'cheshben gadol. This verse, our sages of blessed memory said, this is a Gemara in Baba Basra. He said, just as with the chain mail, all the individual scales add up to form a large coat of mail, so it is with charity. all the individual coins given to charity add up to a great amount. So this is a picture of a coat of mail, a coat that is made of many different scales, and the scales are basically they have each one covers a hole, and the scale on top covers the hole. Obviously, it's made for a coat of arms to protect it, and to become also flexible. So there is holes, and the scales cover the holes, and overall it covers and protects the person. So now again, we need to understand what is the comparison. So the simple way the Gemara explains is like, just here in the coat of mail, you have so many scales that they add up. They add up to become one big coat of armor. The same thing is tzedakah. Every coin that you give tzedakah, even if it's small, it adds up to a big number. But the Alter Rebbe is going to explain here that there's much deeper to this comparison. Usually when you learn, you use a metaphor, you're supposed to add to the understanding. I mean, this fact that many coins add up to a big number is every child understands. You don't need this special metaphor of a coat of armor to understand this. So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain something very, very deep. So he says as follows, Pirush. He says, let's say it outside and a little bit, and we'll explain it, and then we'll read it inside. So what he says, that the way it's done, like we said before, that you have the coat of armor is made out of scales, and the scales cover the holes. Because the holes have a danger that the arrow can come through the hole. And the same thing is with tzedakah. Now, what does that mean? So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain that every mitzvah that we do, when we do a mitzvah in this world, the effect of that mitzvah, we don't feel it necessarily. You take a lulav and you shake the lulav. Do you see anything that what's happening with the effect of what you did? You don't necessarily feel it. But something great is happening, being that this is God's will. And the individual mitzvah that you do, every little movement that you do, it brings upon a great light of Hashem that comes in. It's called the yichud of kutsha bricha and shchinte, the unification of God's eternal light, the kutsha bricha and shchina, and the light that is more fitted to this world. As we explained in the previous lessons, in the previous part of the Tanya, that you have the different levels in order for the Hashem's light, for the godly energy to come down to this world. It goes through filtering. And there is the spiritual worlds, the lower worlds. Now, when we do a mitzvah, we bring that light which is above and beyond of all of the worlds, the God's light himself, to unite and to join that light that is filtered light that comes down to this world. It basically gives a boost to the light that we have, the condensed and filtered light. However, we don't feel it and we don't see it. We cannot appreciate it because we are not capable, we're not vessels to receive that tremendous light. The neshama also, in order for the neshama, the soul, in the world to come, to be able to appreciate that light, the neshama itself also is not able and capable to receive and appreciate that light. In order to do so, for the neshama to be able to appreciate that light in the world to come, the neshama needs a special garments. And the garments is like to use a metaphor is with certain things that you cannot hear with your naked ear. You need to have special tools to be able to sense those things. The neshama needs a special tools, which is the garment, the spiritual garment, which comes from the mitzvah that you do. And then the neshama is able to enjoy and to tune in and to appreciate that great light. This is what happens with every mitzvah. And for that reason, it says that the mitzvahs, there is no reward for the mitzvah in this world. It doesn't say that the reward is not given in this world. It says there is no schar mitzvah b'hai al meleka. There is no reward for a mitzvah in this world, because in this world, you're not capable to appreciate that great light. However, there is an exception. And one of the exceptions is the mitzvah of tzedakah, gemilas chasadim, doing kindness. When you give tzedakah, when you do kindness, it is something that is you're giving to someone that has nothing on his own. This is a godly act. And when you do that, says the Alter Rebbe, it says, Peireseim ba'olam hazeh. You have the fruits that you enjoy in this world. In this world, you're able to enjoy the fruit of the mitzvah of tzedakah. Meaning that there is that tremendous light, that intense light that is not capable of coming down, somehow is able to trickle down. It is like you're wearing the garment, and the garment has a hole. And the hole allows the light to enter even to this world. However, there is a danger. Because once this light is given, once the door opens up and the tremendous light comes, the danger is that it can go to the wrong places. When there is kindness coming upon this world, then the evil can also nourish and it can get from this special light. So therefore, you need to have an extra protection that the light, the tremendous light that comes down through this mitzvah, should go only to the right places, only to the holy side. This, says the Alter Rebbe, is the metaphor, using the metaphor of the garment, the coat of mail, the coat of armor, which has the holes. The holes represent that crack where the light comes through. Now, in order for then, once you have this light, the tremendous light that comes through the garment, you need to protect it. This is the scales that cover the holes. So the mitzvah of tzedakah does two things. It creates an opportunity and creates a new giving of a new tremendous light into this world. And then it goes back and creates also the protection to cover up that it should not go to the wrong places. I know you would not expect this to be your average fundraising letter. And this is the way the Alter Rebbe goes. Alter Rebbe goes into the depth to teach us that we should truly understand what is the mitzvah of tzedakah. So let's continue inside. Says the Alter Rebbe, Pirusha Shir Yain Osei Kaskasim al Nekavim. This means, and this is the additional point being made here, that just as the male, which is the armor, the coat of armor, is made of scales covering gaps, and this shield one against any arrows entering through the gaps. So it is with the act of charity. Meaning, as will presently be explained, the spiritual dynamic of charity comprises A, an element that corresponds to the chinks in the coat of mail, and B, an element that corresponds to the protective scales, the coins that cover those gaps. Says the Alter Rebbe, the meaning of this is as follows. Because charity is greater than all of the commandments. Because for their performance produces garments for the soul, meaning the performance of all the mitzvahs. All the mitzvahs, they produce garments for the soul. The performance of the commandments provides the garments that enables the soul to withstand the intense degree of divine revelation to which it will be exposed in Gan Eden, instead of being nullified by it. If not for the garments, the neshama is not capable, doesn't have the tools to handle this great light. These garments are drawn forth from the infinite light of the blessed Ein Sof. And that is from what level of the light of Ein Sof? From the level of Sevev Kol Almin, which is the encompassing light. It is that light which is above any connection to the worlds. The meaning of the filling the world, and Seviv Kalalmin, as being explained in Likutei Amarim. See there, chapter 48. You can go back to the lessons and you learn more about this concept. The filling, the light that fills the world, the light that encompasses the world. So this coat, the protective coat that we receive, that our neshama receives, comes as a result of our actions. These garments are brought into being by an arousal from below, meaning the fulfillment of the commandments of God and the will of the Supreme Being. Because the will of Hashem is way beyond and above the other attributes of God. So when we fulfill a mitzvah, which is the will of Hashem, we create that garment. These the essence of this flux from the infinite Ein Sof light is a garment, an encompassing light for the 10 sephiros of the 4 worlds, Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. The 10 attributes of the 4 spiritual worlds. Which evolve from cause to cause and from wrong to wrong. And these sephiros, these attributes, being referred to as Memalek Alalmin, the light that fills the world. Pirush. Ki oirin soif baruch hu mislabesh umeir betich kol eser betich kol ishtalshelus eser spheres Atzilus Bria Yetzira Asiya. This means that the Ein Sof light vests itself and radiates in an indwelling manner within the entire evolving chain of the 10 spheres of the world of Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. Moreover, it gives rise to the 10 spheres of the world of Atzilus, which evolve into the world of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. And this is done through the contraction. By means of the immense contraction, the tzimtzum which is explained in Eitz Chaim, v'nikra oyer pnimi. The resultant light is referred to as an indwelling light, a light pnimi, a light that vests itself in an inward manner within created beings, inasmuch as it is contracted to match the spiritual capacity of the particular created being in which it is clothed. So this is the light that we mentioned before, the light that comes down through filtering to be able to enter individually into each creature, whatever it needs. Just like in the body, we gave the example. In the body, we have the different organs that receive from the brain the life, the vitality, the eyes to see, the hands to write and to do things with the hand, the feet to walk, all of this. And this is the internal light from the soul. Then you have a general oyer makif, at the very fact that you're alive. Every organ is alive equally. There is, says the Alter Rebbe continues, through the fulfillment of the mitzvahs, we draw an oyer makif, a more encompassing light into these 10 attributes. And by the fulfillment of the commandments of the above mentioned encompassing light, the above mentioned encompassing light is elicited and radiates within the 10 spheres of the world of Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, thereby uniting with the indwelling light. So that's what happens. When you do the mitzvah, you introduce a greater light, the source of a higher godly light, which unites with that internal light. And that is called the Yichud Kudsha Brichu Shchinte. V'nikra Yichud Kudsha Brichu Shchinte, this is referred to as the unification of the Holy One, blessed be He. The epithet, the holy, Kadosh, Kudsha Brichu, signifying His separateness from the world, hence the level of Seiv Kol Almin. Ushchinte, and His Shechina. Shechina means the indwelling light, as explained elsewhere. That's before doing the mitzvahs. Some people say it before every mitzvah, that whatever the mitzvah we do is in order for the sake of Yichud Kudsha Brichu Shechina, uniting that great light of Kudsha Brichu and the Shechina, the indwelling light. So that's one thing what happens through the mitzvah. Then he says, in addition to that, is also from that encompassing light, there shines a reflection of a reflection from that light, creates a garment to the soul to be able to allow the soul, when it goes to Gan Eden, to be able to connect to that godly revelation. A reflection of a reflection is like the light of the moon that reflects the light of the sun, to use an example. And from a reflection of the above mentioned encompassing light, by means of a powerful contraction, a garment is made in the lower and upper gardens of Eden for the soul level called Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama of men. שיוכלו להנס ולהשיג איזו השגה והאור המאיר אינסוף ברוך הוא כמו שמבואר במקום אחר. And this garment enables them to derive pleasure and attain some apprehension and illumination from the infinite Ein Sof light, which is diffused in the Garden of Eden, as explained elsewhere. This is the meaning of the teaching of our sages of blessed memory, that in this world there is no reward for the fulfillment of the commandments. You can ask, yes, doesn't the Torah say that if we follow the commandments, we'll have all the good things, we'll have health, we'll have parnasa and everything? Yes, the Torah says that, but that's not a reward for the mitzvah. That is just, Hashem says, I will put the conditions that you should be able to do it. So this is just to giving a worker, you got to give him a desk, you got to give him a computer, you give him all he needs to be able to work. So that is something Hashem gives us, Hashem promises us. But that's not the reward of the mitzvah. The reward of the mitzvah does not exist in this world because the world is not capable of appreciating any of the effect of the mitzvah, the godly revelation. Because in this world, which is physical and in a state of limitation, a state of great and most extreme contraction, it is impossible that any reflection of the infinite Ein Sof light should become invested, except by means of the 10 spheres which in the sacred Zohar are referred to as the body. The sphere of Chesed, the attribute of Chesed, kindness, is called the supernal right arm. Gevura, severity, is called the left arm, and so on. Because just as there is no comparison between the physical body and the soul, so is there no comparison whatsoever between the 10 spheres of Atzilus and the supreme emanator, the infinite Ein Sof. Because in relation to the Ein Sof, the endless light of Hashem, even the supreme Chachma, wisdom, which is the highest level of the highest attribute of Atzilus, which is the highest world, which is the first of the Sephiros, is on the plane of material action, meaning it says, Kulam b'chachma asisa, God created it all you made him all with wisdom. We explained this in the other part of Tanya, that it says the wisdom compared to Hashem himself is the same as action. Although action in the human being is the lowest part of the person, by Hashem, the highest and the lowest are all the same. As explained in the Kutei Amarim, the first part of Tanya. Now the Alter Rebbe goes to what we said before, that charity, acts of kindness, are an exception to the rule. And in those mitzvahs, you do enjoy a partial from the fruit in this world. Therefore, through the practice of charity and deeds of kindness, whose fruits man enjoys partially in this world, since some minute quantity of the reward for the fulfillment of these commandments is enjoyed within this world, it follows that a microscopic ray of the infinite light of the Soivev Kalalmin, the encompassing light, does descend into this world. But some of this great light through the mitzvah of tzedakah does come down to this world. And this is possible because, he says, because yesh nekovim al derech mashon belavusha elyon amakif al gufa imakilim diyut tzviras. Because there appears, metaphorically speaking, gaps and holes in the supernal garment that envelop the body, which is the vessels of the 10 sephiros. Through these gaps, light and abundance are irradiated and diffused, so that from the sphere of chesed, the attribute of kindness, which is the right arm, there results longevity in this physical world. And from the left arm, which is the sphere of gevura, severity, there result wealth and honor. And likewise with the beauty that emanates from the sphere of Tiferes, V'hoid, V'hoda, V'cheda, V'chulu, and the other attributes, the majesty, splendor, and gladness, etc., from the respective spheres of Hoid, Yesoid, etc. So this is what happens through the mitzvah of tzedakah. They cause to have holes in the garment, which is the tremendous encompassing light. And through those holes, there comes down this tremendous light, intense light into this world. However, as we said before, this can pose also a danger. And the danger is that once it opens up the door, then the forces of evil are also able to take from that abundance. And in order for that not to happen, we need to cover up those holes. That only the right and the good side should take from this abundance. However, in order to prevent the forces of evil from drawing down on high from the light and abundance which evolves and descends netherward down into this world, as far down as this physical world. And likewise, here below, in order to shield man and to guard him and save him from all physical and spiritual harm, which could conceivably result if the klipas and sitra acha were to derive nurture from this source. For that, we need to recover those gaps, those holes. The encompassing light is reflected back and, figuratively speaking, fills the breach. Once the encompassing light has, so to speak, shone down into this world through the chink produced by men's charitable deeds, it is then reflected back in order to fill the very same breach. This deprives the forces of evil of any possible nurture via the same avenue. For this encompassing light belongs to the category of the infinite and Soivev Kalalmin, as mentioned above, and this infinitely transcends degree of light called Makif, or Makif, is a source from which the forces of evil are unable to derive any sustenance. And this is what underlies the above quoted teaching of our sages of blessed memory, that just as with the chain mail, the coat of mail, the coat of armor, all the individual scales add up to form a large coat of mail, so it is with the charity. All the individual coins add up to a great amount. The word great is used advisedly. The word great refers to the greatness of God. In the spirit of the verse, the great is Avaya, exceedingly glorified without end limit or restrictions ever fulfilled. So thus, by means of the coins given to charity, one draws down spiritual light from the level denoted by the phrase, great is Avaya, the fourth-letter divine name, alluded to, and this alludes to the 10 Sephiros. From the letter Yud represents the level of Chachma, the first letter Hey represents the level of Bina, Vav represents the 6 midos, the 6 emotive attributes, and the spiritual emotions, and the final letter Hey represents Malchus, which is the action. These spheres are sustained by the Ein Sof and partake of its infinite greatness. Okay? After such a fundraising letter, who wouldn't open up the pockets? This is the way the Alter Rebbe gives us, teaches us the beautiful power of the amazing power of this mitzvah of tzedakah that opens up the encompassing light, something which is impossible to receive in this world, but tzedakah does do it, and in the same time, tzedakah also prevents the other side, the wrong side, the evil side, to receive. And tomorrow we're going to continue to explain the other part of the verse. What does it mean? The helmet of salvation. So see you tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. And also, if you can share these classes, it's good to share as many people to be able to study these beautiful teachings of the Tanya. All the best.